quiet. But heck no, I'll blow up my mind and let these thoughts go. And now they reach the distance. You don't know you're dealing with resistance. There will always be resistance. We're fighting for freedom. Freedom is voice. And you that go and try to impose your choice. Let me speak my mind. 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 'Cause you cannot control this. Cannot control. You cannot control every word we speak. No, you cannot control this. Cannot control. You better let go of your truth hegemony. See, now we've been an island. Oh, with free and open library. And if you think you keep us stranded, just know we're like the wind and the truth can fly. We know some more scars, boundaries like in your bullying and prejudice, but it is such a perfect question. Oh no, the right to swing your fist stands where the other one's nose began. Some believe in clashing, some in burning. We just build a place for news democracy. You cannot control this, cannot control. You cannot control every word we read. No, you cannot control this, cannot control. You gotta let go of the truth hegemony. Let me speak.
Judiciais abusivos contra jornalistas, meios de comunicação se multiplicaram nos últimos anos e o sigilo das fontes é com frequência questionado. A maioria desses processos judiciais recentes foram iniciados por representantes do Estado ou pessoas próximas à presidência.
Widely encouraged by this anti-media rhetoric of what we decided to call the Bolsonaro system, abusive lawsuits against Brazilian journalists and the media have multiplied in recent years, and the secrecy of sources is often questioned. Most of the judicial proceedings were initiated by representatives of the state or persons close to the presidency.
Mas além dos seus apoiadores mais leais, o governo federal também mobiliza instituições públicas para sua luta contra a imprensa crítica e independente.
But in addition to its most loyal supporters, the federal government also mobilizes public institutions to fight the critical and independent press.
Em 2020, por exemplo, que foi um ano eleitoral aqui no Brasil, esses processos judiciais contra a imprensa aumentaram significativamente. Segundo dados de uma organização parceira chamada Abrage, foram pelo menos 24 casos de censura de reportagens e de pedidos por parte de candidatos de remoção de conteúdo de sites e de redes sociais.
In 2020, for example, which was an election year in Brazil, these lawsuits against the press increased significantly. According to data from the Brazilian Association of Investigative Journalism, Abrage, there were at least 24 cases of censorship of reports and requests by candidates to remove content from websites and social networks.
Assim como os casos da GGN e dos Intercept Brasil, que vão ser detalhados agora, muitos outros jornalistas, queria só nomear alguns deles, como o Hélio Schwartzman, o Rui Castro, o Ricardo Nobla, o cartunista Aroeira, e ainda veículos de imprensa como a Ponte Jornalismo, a TV Globo, o jornal Folha de São Paulo e o portal UOL, foram ameaçados ou foram alvos de ações judiciais por terem publicado informações irônicas e ou críticas sobre a atuação do governo ou de políticos eleitos.
As well as the cases of GGN and the Intercept Brazil, which will be detailed now, many other journalists such as Hélio Schwartzman, Rui Castro, Ricardo Noblat, the cartoonist Aroeira, and also press vehicles such as Ponte Jornalismo, TV Globo, the newspaper Folha de São Paulo, and the portal UOL were threatened with or were in fact the target of lawsuits for having published ironic and or critical information about the actions of the government or elected politicians.
E, obviamente, essas pressões judiciais têm, infelizmente, consequências dramáticas, geram medo e autocensura e privam a sociedade brasileira de informações de interesse público e, às vezes, de informações vitais.
And those repressions, unfortunately, they generate fear and more censorship. And unfortunately, as well, they oppress and they deprive the Brazilian community and the Brazilian society from vital information and from having their own opinions.
Então, só queria finalizar dizendo que, num período de pandemia, o direito à informação é tão importante como o direito à saúde, e defender o direito de informar, de ser informado, é o coração do nosso combate. Temos mais uma prova disso com esse lindo projeto da biblioteca digital.
Just like to finish by saying that during the pandemic, the rights to information and to health are very important. So that's our struggle, to defend the right to inform and to be informed. And that is why this beautiful project of the Uncensored Library is so important at this time.
Era isso. Então, vou deixar a palavra para nossos queridos amigos jornalistas aqui.
So now I'm going to pass the floor to our dear journalists. That is all that I had for the day.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Indeed, the Uncensored Library is important to give voices to those critical journalists who have been silenced or tried to be silent. That's why I would like to start hearing actually their stories. And I would like to ask Patricia from GGN, Journal GGN. Patricia, are you here?
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Patricia. Patricia, please tell us what is the story about. And what I know is that the investigation is about the relationship between right-wing Brazilian politicians and data companies. But can you tell us more about it and why and how was it censored?
Okay, first of all, I would like to appreciate the invitation and this opportunity to be part of this project. I will speak in Portuguese so I can express myself better and for the comprehension of our readers. Então, eu gostaria de explicar basicamente as reportagens que estão na Biblioteca Sem Censura. Nós, do Jornal GGN, tivemos 11 reportagens censuradas no ano passado e selecionamos 5 delas, eu e o Luiz Nassif, para divulgar, então, nesse projeto Uncensored Library. Todas essas 5 reportagens, na verdade, as 11 reportagens...
Só pouquinho para eu traduzir. Obrigada. So I would like to start by explaining about our news pieces that were censored and that were included in the Uncensored Library. GGN had 11 censored news pieces last year, and Nassif and I chose 5 of them to be included in the Uncensored Library project.
Todas as reportagens foram denúncias envolvendo um grupo econômico multinacional, o BTG Pactual. 2 delas são relacionadas a uma licitação, uma contratação pública do governo para estacionamentos na cidade de São Paulo, chamado Zona Azul.
So these censored news pieces were about, one of them was about a complaint of an economic multinational group called BTG Pactual, and the other 2 were about a beating round that the government promoted for the expansion of an area in the city of São Paulo called Zona Azul, the Blue Zone.
Eu só gostaria de corrigir uma informação. Todas as reportagens são relacionadas, sim, ao grupo BTG Pactual, todas as reportagens censuradas.
So
2 delas, como você...
Just to correct the information, all of the news pieces that were denounced and reported were about the BTG Pactual economic multinational group, and 2 of them were about the bidding rounds for the expansion of the city of São Paulo. I'm sorry.
Bom, Luiz Nassif ele foi quem fez as primeiras denúncias de irregularidades ilícitos dessa contratação, logo mais ele pode falar a respeito disso. Posteriormente, eu investiguei, encontrei documentos também da empresa vencedora dessa licitação, desse contrato, que essa empresa ela integra o grupo BTG Pactual, e esses documentos, então, respaldaram as nossas denúncias.
Luiz Nassif was the one who first complained about this bidding round. He's going to be able to talk about it later on. And I myself investigated and found some documents of the winning company from this bidding round to the expansion of São Paulo, of the Blue Zone project. And I found that this company that won the bidding round was actually part of the BTG Pactual group.
As denúncias tratam, basicamente, de maneira superficial, se a gente for falar, de indícios de superfaturamento. O Nassif pode explicar mais a respeito também depois.
The complaints, basically, in a nutshell, they deal with traces of overcharging. So this company would be charging too much for the service. So Nassif will be able to explain that in detail later.
E uma quinta reportagem que eu fiz, que eu produzi, também disponível na biblioteca Uncensored, era parte de uma série de reportagens sobre o sistema de aposentadoria do Chile.
And another news piece that I also produced, and it can be found also in the Uncensored Library project, was a series of news pieces, actually, about the retirement plans and the retirement system in Chile.
Claro, em meio às minhas investigações sobre o sistema previdenciário do país, eu encontrei documentos que comprovavam que o grupo BTG Pactual, hoje é uma multinacional, mas originalmente ele foi fundado no Brasil, foi um dos principais beneficiários do sistema de pagamento de aposentadoria dos chilenos.
And during my investigations in that retirement system in Chile, I could find some documents that proved that the group BTG Pactual, who is today a multinational group, but it was founded in Brazil, the documents show that they were one of the most benefited from the payment of retirement funds to the Chilean population.
Claro, no Chile, as aposentadorias funcionam com base em investimentos, nos quais os bancos arrecadam a porcentagem dos salários dos trabalhadores e investem no sistema financeiro. O BTG recebeu no ano passado 0,5% desse lucro, em números, 1,130 bilhões de dólares.
Pode repetir o número para mim, Patrícia? O número do...
Sim.
Quantos foram? Quantos dólares?
O BTG recebeu 0,5%, que foi 1,130 bilhões de dólares.
Okay. Obrigada. So after the investigation of the retirement system in Chile, we could see that the system follows a process of investing in the market. So the bank collects the money from those employees, from those workers in Chile, and it invests this money for them, and then they receive it when they retire. But we could find that BTG Pactual actually received 0.5% of the profit from those investments in the Chilean banks, which is actually $1.130 billion. $1.130 billion.
Just last year. Is it? I think that Luiz Nassif can talk about his articles.
Yes, it is indeed a very complex case, and unfortunately not the only one in Latin America. We have these schemes repeating itself in each of the countries. Then I would like to also talk to Luis, and not only talking about the stories. I would like to know Luis, if he's there. Yes. Perfect. Your camera, Luis, is now. Oi, Luis. Yes, Luis, the use of the justice system, it is unfortunately very effective to silence or to try to silence journalists. Whenever there is a complaint, these are very expensive. They take a long time. They are very exhausting. Can you tell us, in your experience, how this complaint has affected you as a journalist and also the GGR Journal?
Tá, eu tenho cerca... Estou com recursos pessoais bloqueados, eu estou com grandes ações tramitando já nos tribunais superiores, tem uma reclamação junto à Suprema Corte brasileira, mas a maior pressão das ações que eu sofro vem da própria mídia. Eu continuo falando normalmente?
So first, I would like to start by saying that I have personal resources were blocked currently. I have many lawsuits that are now in transaction in the Supreme Courts, but the biggest pressure that I feel comes from the media itself.
Isso, deixa eu só situar um pouquinho para vocês entenderem. Eu fiz minha carreira na grande imprensa, desde os anos 80 eu tinha uma empresa, fui introdutor do jornalismo eletrônico no país, membro do Conselho Editorial do maior jornal brasileiro, tinha colunas na imprensa e saí em 2005.
So just to give a little bit of the context of my career actually started in the 1980s. I was one of the first introducers of electronic journalism in Brazil. I had some columns. I wrote some columns for newspapers, but I quit those newspapers in 2005.
O que aconteceu com os grupos de mídia no Brasil é que eles entraram nos anos 2000 com grave crise financeira e viram o avanço da internet, o modelo de negócio entrar em crise, sem saber como se situar nesse novo mundo.
So what happened in Brazil is that the media groups, they entered the 2000s in a severe financial crisis. They saw the increase of the use of internet. They knew that that could be a way out for them to diversify their work, but they did not know exactly how to do it.
Eles começam a se aproximar, então, dos grandes grupos financeiros. E, em 2005, Roberto Tivita, que era dono da maior revista semanal brasileira, descobre Rupert Murdoch.
So they come close to some financial groups after that, after the increase of the use of internet. And then Robert Tivita, the owner of one of the biggest weekly magazines, he discovers Rupert Murdoch.
E traz para o Brasil o modelo Murdoch, que consistia em transformar a imprensa num partido político, conquistar o poder para impedir o avanço dos concorrentes, aí os grandes grupos Google, Facebook e empresas telefônicas.
And then he implements in Brazil what is called the Murdoch system, which means transforming the press into a big political party to get power, to be able to stop those big electronic and tech groups like Google so that they can stop the advancement of the internet.
A revista Veja se transforma no maior veículo de assassinatos de reputação no país. E os grupos de mídia aderem, Folha, Globo, e usam o macartismo como ferramenta de negócios para intimidar adversários, intimidar governos e compradores.
So the Veja magazine, which is this weekly magazine that we are talking about, becomes a murderer of reputation in the country. And the big journalistic groups follow, like Globo and other newspapers, and they use McCarthyism to try to change the game here in Brazil.
Então, passam a explorar todo o instrumental da ultradireita e do Fox News, que é o uso de fake news o uso de fake news, a criação da figura do inimigo e o discurso de ódio visando conquistar uma opinião pública classe média.
So they start exploring the instruments of the ultra right-wing people, and like Fox News, which creates fake news. This is their main instrument. And they create the figure of the enemy, disseminating hate speech.
Eu enfrentei a Veja através de um blog, fiz uma série que eu coloquei na internet, fui alvo de 500 páginas de ataques pessoais, ataques à família, ataques à esposa, ataques a filhas, por parte da Veja, e a partir de um determinado momento, eles perceberam que estavam perdendo a batalha, interromperam os ataques e entraram com ações judiciais.
So I attacked Veja. I actually came across Veja in a blog that I had. I had a series of online news pieces that I actually disclosed on the internet. And from then on, I received attacks, personal attacks to my wife, to my kids, from 500 different pages. And when Veja noticed that they were losing the battle, they actually took this battle to the judiciary. They started filing lawsuits against me.
A partir daí, a mídia faz um pacto com o poder judiciário, que passa a atuar como um braço da própria mídia. E isso tudo evolui até a Operação Lava Jato. Então, a Operação Lava Jato tem várias formas de censura que foram feitas pela própria mídia, pela própria Brage e pelo jornalismo oficial.
So the media then creates a big pact with the judiciary. The judiciary at this point becomes a branch of the media. And it evolves until we get to the car wash operation, the Operação Lava Jato. And the car wash operation started censoring a lot in the media. So they were actually bearers of censorship.
A censura foi feita através do chamado silenciamento das denúncias que vinham dos blogs. Então, houve um pacto tácito entre Ministério Público, mídia, tribunais, de só aceitar as denúncias que viessem dos jornais oficiais, justamente para blindar a Lava Jato. Então, nós temos várias matérias que foram levantadas de denúncias que ficaram sem repercussão.
So this censorship actually was about silencing complaints that the public prosecution's office would receive. There was a big pact between the public prosecution and the media. So the public prosecution will only chase after those complaints that came from the official newspapers, as they call it. So all of those complaints and news pieces from other media means would be neglected. They would only take into account and would only investigate the ones that came from the official and approved newspapers.
Esse pacto mídia-Lava Jato leva ao impeachment, leva à desmoralização da política e abre espaço para a ascensão do Bolsonaro. E só é interrompido quando o Intercept publica os diálogos dos procuradores na operação conhecida como Vaza Jato.
So this pact between the media and the car wash operation at the time led us to the impeachment of President Dilma and the demoralization of politics in the country, which in fact led to the election of Bolsonaro. So it could only be stopped when the Intercept actually publicized the dialogues between the justices talking about the car wash operation, which we called Operation Vaza Jato, which would be the leak operation.
Ao mesmo tempo, os grupos de mídia se aproximam cada vez mais dos grandes bancos de investimento, como o BTG, e passam a ser um desdobramento desses bancos de investimento.
At the same time, the media groups also come closer to those big investment groups. As was said before, BTG Pactual is one of them. And then the media becomes a development of those big investment and financial groups.
Então, hoje em dia, você tem duas formas de censura. Você tem o lawfare, as ações abertas por políticos, pelo Bolsonaro, os ataques que são feitos aos jornalistas, e um segundo grupo, que são as ações judiciais, do poder judiciário, efetivamente, contra aqueles jornalistas que são críticos do poder judiciário. No meu caso, a maior ameaça vem do poder judiciário e das ações de grupos de mídia contra mim.
So we can conclude that the censorship comes in two ways. We have what we call the lawfare, which are attacks to journalists, personal attacks and complaints filed against journalists. And the other heavier censorship is the judicial suits, the legal suits that are filed against the journalist and the judiciary. And in my case, this is what affects me the most. That's where I have most problems.
A questão é que todo modelo de fake news que foi consagrado pela mídia, pela revista Veja, acompanhada dos demais jornais, ganhou vida própria através das redes sociais e do WhatsApp. Então, a imprensa perdeu aquele poder de influenciar multidões e o Bolsonaro ganhou esse poder de influenciar multidões em cima de uma base de fake news que a própria Veja desenvolveu.
So this system of fake news was put forward by the Veja magazine and other newspapers, and it was actually disseminated through social media and WhatsApp. So the media, the traditional media, lost its power to influence the crowds, and Bolsonaro won this power to influence the crowds through the social media and WhatsApp based on a basis of fake news that was created by Veja.
Apenas dias atrás, a imprensa caiu na real, Globo principalmente, Folha, do mal que esse não jornalismo causou ao país. E voltam agora a tentar fazer jornalismo, mas em cima de uma perda de credibilidade muito grande, e sem conter, digamos, essa ofensiva do Poder Judiciário sobre quem critica o Poder Judiciário.
So days ago, I could say, Globo and Folha de São Paulo and the main media groups, they saw the evil that it was doing this non-journalism. So now they're back to doing traditional journalism, but with a lot of lack of credibility and without these offenses to the judiciary.
Por exemplo, essa questão do BTG que a Patrícia colocou, qual que é o negócio que está por trás disso? É o acesso aos bancos de dados públicos, que valem bilhões. Eu denunciei, mostrei o ganho que eles teriam com esses bancos de dados públicos, o direcionamento da licitação. Nenhum jornal repercutiu a denúncia. O Ministério Público de São Paulo entrou com uma ação com base na denúncia e nenhum jornal repercutiu, porque hoje eles dependem fundamentalmente da parceria com o capital financeiro e os bancos de investimento.
So this issue with the BTG Pactual group that Patricia was just explaining to us earlier is about having behind BTG Pactual access to public databases. So they are worth billions. I actually personally filed a complaint with the big newspapers, and none of them published this access to public databases, but the Public Prosecution's Office of São Paulo started an action against the BTG Pactual group. Even though that happened, the big newspapers did not complain it because they need this partnership with the big financial and investment groups.
Bom, isso aí, obrigado, então.
So that's all for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis. Yes, definitely. We cannot imagine, for example, if this would happen to a former New York Times or Guardian editorial board member. We wouldn't imagine that there wouldn't be a national and international outcry of expression and solidarity. Well, I would like to talk with Paola Bianchi now, our last journalist invited today. She is from The Intercept, and unfortunately, they have also have a story of legal complaints Paula, are you here? Paula Bianchi? Well, while she's coming back, maybe I would like to remind you to write down your questions because we're about to go to the Q&A session. Well, maybe Paula is having some problems.
It was blocked, I think.
And my colleagues then, can they check really quick if you can invite Paula Bianchi to the room?
She's here, but I think she needs one more minute.
There she is. Oi, Paula. Can you hear me?
Sorry, guys, I had some technical issues. I was being muted. Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be here. I'm also going to speak in Portuguese, so you don't have to try to understand my bad English. Bom, eu achei muito interessante essa fala do Nassif. Na verdade, ele fez um artigo há pouco tempo listando todos os processos judiciais que ele tem sofrido, que me impressionou muito. Eu gostei particularmente daquela imagem do martelo representando a justiça no Brasil, porque eu acho que hoje, apesar da gente sofrer muitos ataques por conta do governo, a Repórteres Sem Fronteiras tem um levantamento que mostra que os principais ataques contra jornalistas no ano passado foram feitos pelo presidente e por 2 de seus filhos. Quem de fato tem atuado nessa questão da censura, tendo censurado mais, é o judiciário, num aumento cada vez maior do que a gente tem de por assédio judicial. Agora deixar a Verônica falar aí.
Oi, Paula, Natália. Obrigada. Eu já ia te pedir para fazer uma pausa. So I thought it was very interesting to hear from Nassif and all of the lawsuits that he is suffering because of his complaints. And last year, actually, he published an article listing all of the lawsuits that he had received and he was involved in. And I thought that image of the hammer representing justice in Brazil, very representative of the moment that we're living now. We could see in the past few months the attacks by the president and his family to the journalists, and they were the main ones that actually attacked the media in Brazil.
Apesar da gente ter feito toda a série de reportagens da Vaza Jato, que desmontou, né, a Operação Lava Jato no Brasil em 2019, quando eu e alguns colegas íamos dormir com medo de que a Polícia Federal batesse na nossa porta e nos prendesse, a gente tinha inclusive esse aviso por parte dos advogados, que era uma possibilidade, e o próprio presidente deu indícios de que ele tentaria prender alguém do site de alguma forma. Na época, o Glenn Reynolds, que estava coordenando, quer fazer parte dessa operação, hoje já não está no Intercept. Foi quando a gente fez matérias falando do judiciário que nós fomos de fato censurados.
So in 2001, when the car wash operation was dismantled, my colleagues and I from the Intercept would go to bed at night afraid that the federal police would knock on our doors and have us arrested. Our lawyers said so, that could be a possibility. And actually, the president at the time, President Bolsonaro at the time, wanted to arrest someone from the Intercept. And the main target was Glenn at the time, who was the director of the Intercept. He's no longer at the Intercept now. But the time that we were actually attacked was, for our own surprise, the time that we started filing complaints and publicizing complaints about the judiciary.
Eu vou contar para vocês um pouquinho das reportagens que a gente teve censuradas. Apesar delas serem bastante diferentes, elas têm um elemento comum, que é essa questão do judiciário, e inclusive na segunda situação de censura que a gente sofreu, os juízes que pediram essa censura citaram a primeira reportagem.
Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the news pieces that we wrote that were censored. They have differences, but they have one thing in common. They were all about the judiciary. And one of the judges that complained about us he mentioned this first news piece that I'm going to say, which was in fact a complaint about the judiciary.
Bom, a primeira reportagem que a gente fez, que teve essa questão da censura, foi sobre o caso Mariana Ferrer. A gente contou como a Mariana Ferrer, apesar de ter toda uma investigação que mostrava que ela tinha sido estuprada, foi humilhada durante um julgamento por videoconferência e teve o suposto estuprador, o indicado pela polícia como estuprador, inocentado. Nessa reportagem, em nenhum momento a gente aponta para o promotor ou para o juiz falando que eles eram os culpados por isso, mas a gente fala que de fato ela foi humilhada por muito tempo durante o julgamento e o silêncio deles fica muito claro nas imagens.
The first news piece that was censored was about the Mariana Ferrer case, a young girl who was raped during a party. And it was investigated, the rape was investigated, but during the hearing online, she was humiliated by the prosecutor and the lawyers and the judge. And the rapist, the alleged rapist, was deemed innocent. So we don't complain specifically about the judge and the prosecutor being the culprits of this case not going forward, but we think that that was a very strong point that could have made the case not go forward. How humiliated she was and how they didn't treat the case seriously. And that is very easy to see from the images.
Essa reportagem, a partir do momento que ela foi publicada, ela se tornou uma comoção nacional. A gente teve mais de 4 milhões de acessos no site, ela foi o debate público da semana, foi capa de todas as revistas, e ela levou, inclusive, à criação de uma lei, que é a Lei Mariana Ferrer, para que pessoas na situação dela tenham a proteção da justiça, que agentes públicos sejam obrigados a interromper o que ela viveu naquele momento.
At the moment that this news piece was published, there was a national commotion. It was all over the place. It had over 4 million accesses on our website. It was the cover of magazines and newspapers. And at the time, it led to the creation of the Mariana Act, which was a law that demanded the protection from justice in cases like the Mariana Ferrer case, the case of rape, so that which happened to her could be stopped.
Só para vocês entenderem um pouquinho, né, do papel da justiça ali, o que eu acho que, apesar da gente não ter dito claramente que o juiz e o promotor silenciaram, foram culpados, eles fazem uma tese de que, sim, a gente entende que a polícia viu que tem um estupro ali, mas como a gente não tem como saber se ela estava vulnerável ou não na situação do estupro, porque o Brasil tem uma lei sobre estupro de vulnerável, seria então como se fosse um estupro culposo, um estupro sem intenção de estuprar, porque o estuprador não teria como saber que ela estava vulnerável no momento. E foi isso que incendiou o país, né? Essa noção de que nenhuma mulher jamais pode ser culpada pelo estupro que sofreu. E, inclusive, isso até nos trouxe esperança, porque diferente de situação, porque o Brasil ainda é um país muito machista. E foi muito interessante ver uma mulher que sofreu um estupro ser abraçada. Muitas mulheres Isso Furou Todas as Bolhas se levantaram contra isso com essa ideia simples, de que uma mulher jamais vai ser culpada pela violência que ela sofreu.
So the interesting explanation of the justice in this case was that they could see that there was a rape there from the police and from the evidence, but they couldn't know if the victim was vulnerable at the time. They did, because we have a law in Brazil against rape of vulnerable people, but they could not prove that that Mariana was vulnerable at the time. So Brazil is still a very sexist country, and the justice at the time talked about the idea and the concept of involuntary rape, which would be rape without intention of raping. And that actually busted the bubble of many groups in society and many women. And even though Brazil is still a very sexist country, many women came together and many people came together to embrace Mariana because of that decision of the court.
Bom, um mês depois da publicação dessa reportagem, a gente recebeu uma ação judicial feita pelo promotor e pelo juiz do caso Mariana Ferrer, que de fato aparecem nas imagens da videoconferência do julgamento, dizendo que a gente estava perseguindo a justiça naquela ação, que a gente não colocou a atuação deles de forma correta, que eles teriam de fato falado a favor da Mariana, enfim. Isso não acontece, eu tenho a audiência inteira. Mas o mais curioso é que a reportagem não era sobre a atuação deles, era sobre a humilhação e sobre o desenrolar do caso. Mas ainda assim, eles entenderam que nós os culpamos e estão com uma ação contra a gente de quase R$1 milhão, o que agora eu não sou capaz de transformar em euros, dado o câmbio atual. Deve ser muito menos euros do que já foi, mas que seria capaz de fechar o nosso site, que é um site independente financiado por leitores.
So 1 month later, after this complaint was published, we received a lawsuit that was filed by the prosecutor and the judge at the time of the Mariana Ferrer case. And they said that we used their images at the video conference of the hearing, and we were persecuting justice system, and we were persecuting them and putting them as culprits, talking in favor of Mariana, but putting them as culprits for her case. And that was not the case. We were writing a news piece about Mariana and in favor of Mariana, but we were not putting anyone as a culprit. The news piece was not about that. So now they actually have a suit against us, and they're asking for about 1 million reais, which I don't know exactly what it is in euros because I don't know what the exchange rate is today, but 1 million reais fine would actually lead us to closing the website. We are an independent website that is financed by our readers, so we could not pay 1 million reais to the justice system of Brazil today.
E daí também foi interessante que esse caso criou uma situação única de censura, pelo menos até onde a gente tem ciência. Um dia depois dessa ação dessa liminar ter sido imposta, uma juíza deu um parecer provisório concordando e determinando que enquanto esse caso não fosse decidido na justiça, ela editaria a nossa matéria. Então ela fez o que não existe no Brasil: ou você derruba uma reportagem ou você dá direito de resposta. E ela decidiu que a justiça seria capaz de dizer o que um jornalista tem que falar, que pra gente é um ataque imenso à liberdade de expressão. Ela determinou frases que a gente precisava modificar no texto, que inclusive nem estavam no texto, né? Esclarecer, por exemplo, que os juízes não falaram estupro culposo, que a gente nunca fez na matéria. Então, ela determinou, sobre pena da gente pagar uma multa diária bem alta, que a gente editasse a nossa reportagem com as palavras dela, o que pra gente é gravíssimo. E a gente espera perder na primeira instância, esse caso está correndo em Santa Catarina, e queremos levar isso até as últimas instâncias, porque a gente acha que é um ataque gravíssimo à liberdade de expressão, não só do Intercept, mas de todos os jornalistas do país.
And that was the kind of censorship that became unique in the case of Mariana Ferrer. After this injunction, asking us to take down our news piece, talking about the case, there was a judge that established, a female judge actually, that established that while the case was not closed, that we would have to edit our news piece with her words, with the sentences that she chose. And that is unprecedented because usually they either take down the news piece or they give us the right to, or we give them the right to respond. So that never happened before. She wanted us to edit everything and to put her words into it, to delete a few sentences and say that it was never the unintentional rape. That we actually didn't say that, but she wanted us to take it out. And we would pay a daily fee for the news piece every day that the news piece remained online if we didn't do that. So that was a very severe sanction. That was a very severe form of censorship. And we are now fighting against it in court. We hope to lose in the first stance, but we're going to take it to the end because that was a very severe censorship. That was a huge attack on us. It's a serious thing.
Eu falo que essa reportagem ela é ligada a outra reportagem que a gente teve censurada. No texto da ação do juiz e do promotor, eles citam essa outra reportagem e nos chamam de franco-atiradores travestidos de jornalistas que estão atrás para acabar com o sistema judiciário. Só porque a gente porque a gente anteriormente tinha feito uma matéria sobre Manaus que mostrava o compadrio do judiciário com um político.
So on the text of this lawsuit related to the Mariana case, the judge and the prosecutor mentioned the second news piece that we wrote, saying that we are snipers dressed as journalists who are waiting to end the judiciary, to kill the judiciary, just because of a second news piece that we wrote about Manaus, about the city of Manaus, where we were showing the combination and the agreement that the judiciary had with the politicians, the local politicians.
Essa reportagem, que foi inteiramente censurada, não foi editada, como no caso da reportagem de Manaus, era, na verdade, uma reportagem muito simples, que mostrava como um candidato à prefeitura numa cidade, na capital do Amazonas, usou do dinheiro que ele tinha, dos contatos que ele tinha, para evitar algumas ações da justiça e continuar como candidato, e fazer campanha dentro de hospitais que combatiam exclusivamente a Covid, como se ele fosse um médico, e ele é político há quase 30 anos, como se fosse um médico combatendo a Covid, e como se os resultados, na época, animadores, não terríveis, como hoje no Amazonas, fossem, de certa forma, parte das ações dele enquanto médico cuidando da Covid nesse hospital. Ele fez campanha se baseando nisso.
And this news piece in Manaus was actually censored altogether. We didn't have a chance to edit like we had the chance with the news piece about the Mariana case. And this news piece was simple. At the time, we were just talking about a candidate for mayor of Manaus, that he used his contacts inside the judiciary to avoid actions from the justice system and to be able to continue his campaign by going to the hospitals that were treating COVID-19 patients. And he acted as a physician, as the results that at the time were very positive results for Manaus, different than today. The positive results was because of his work inside the hospitals and as a physician. So that was his campaign was all about.
Só um pequeno esclarecimento, né? Ele fazia propagandas políticas usando essas imagens filmadas dentro do hospital. E os adversários dele tinham entrado na justiça para que essas propagandas fossem retiradas, e ele conseguiu mantê-las devido a essa relação que ele tinha com o sistema judiciário.
So just to clarify, he used images shot inside hospitals for his advertisement, for his propaganda. So the opponents asked the media to take it down, but he used his contacts inside the judiciary to keep on airing those advertisements inside hospitals.
E daí, de novo, essa história é interessante, porque nós fomos censurados e fomos investigar quem era o juiz que estava nos censurando. E nós descobrimos, de fato, que ele era amigo íntimo do candidato, frequentava festas na sua casa, e até a gente não teve depois informação suficiente para fazer uma nova reportagem, mas ele até comemorou aniversário no aras do juiz. O juiz comemorou o aniversário no aras do candidato. Aras, né? Bom, para saber que é cavalo aí, né?
So afterwards, after we had the censorship on our news piece, we did some investigating, and we found out that the judge in charge was a close friend of this candidate for mayor. He went to parties at this candidate's house, and we had no more information to publish a second news piece, but we could see that he had actually celebrated the birthday in a ranch where the candidate would breed horses.
Bom, daí, cerca 2 dias depois que a gente teve a reportagem censurada, a gente publicou uma nova reportagem com informações que mostravam que esse candidato era amigo. Não tinha essa informação do aniversário, foi essa que faltou para uma segunda reportagem, mas a gente tinha informação suficiente para mostrar por que nós somos censurados. A gente escolheu brigar contra a censura, nesse caso, com o jornalismo.
So after we found out all of this information, we didn't have yet, unfortunately, the information about the party at the horse breeding ranch, but we had information enough to publish a second news piece about this candidate and about the judge to show how we were censored and where the censorship came from. So we actually fought against censorship by doing journalism.
Atualmente, esse caso também segue sem resposta. A gente aproveitou uma brecha, considerando a justiça eleitoral, para subir a matéria no ar, mas a gente também está sendo processado, eu acho, tipo, R$100 mil por dia, se a gente perder, por manter a matéria no ar. E daí ficou interessante, porque se tornou um caso radioativo para a justiça de Manaus. Percebendo o erro que eles cometeram, o judiciário de cerca de 4 juízes de Manaus declinaram de julgar esse caso lá.
Yes. I'm sorry to interrupt. Yes, please go ahead, but we have to come to an end, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm ending here. This is the last piece. I was just going to say that now we are still waiting for the judgment of this case, and it's in his fourth state. I'm going to have let Natalia translate. Só para falar que a gente ainda, esse julgamento se tornou radioativo, a justiça ali percebeu o erro que cometeu e esse caso saiu do Amazonas, foi para o Espírito Santo e ainda está no Rio de Janeiro. Nenhum juiz, já passou por 6 ou 8 juízes, se considerou apto para julgar, porque eles perceberam o erro cometido em Manaus. E a gente espera que isso aconteça em Santa Catarina também, assim que a gente subir o caso para as próximas instâncias e divulgar, porque a justiça só se sente apta a censurar jornalistas quando ela faz isso na sombra. Quando isso é divulgado e a sociedade pressiona, eles precisam se explicar, que foi o que aconteceu também.
So this case still has no response, the case of Manaus. We tried to use the elections as a loophole to publish this news piece again, to put it on there again, but they actually are charging us with a 1,000 reais fine a day if we keep it on. And that became a radioactive case for Manaus because the justice system of Manaus realized their mistake and 4 judges already declined judging this case and taking it to court. And it left Manaus, it went to Espírito Santo, and then it went to Rio de Janeiro, and like 6 or 8 judges declined it already because they don't want to judge because they noticed the error from the judge in Manaus. So justice only censors journalists when they are in the shadows. But when it's public and it comes out to the society and the society pressures the justice system, they don't censor the journalists.
Não é isso, pessoal. Desculpa, eu falei, me alonguei um pouco, porque eu acho que essas histórias são interessantes, apesar de horrendas, interessantes. E eu acho, de fato, que a questão do assédio judicial é hoje um dos principais problemas, um dos principais riscos à liberdade de imprensa e à própria democracia no Brasil. Se a gente não tiver segurança jurídica para reportar, nós ainda temos advogados, bons advogados capazes de nos defender. Como ficam os outros jornalistas independentes, né? Como é que fica a liberdade de imprensa quando você não tiver segurança de que você, apenas fazendo jornalismo, está apto a fazer isso? Muito obrigada a todas aí.
I'm sorry I took too long. I actually got excited and spoke a little bit too much, but I would just like to show you these 2 news pieces because I think they're very representative because we need to have legal security to do our job. And lawyers, we have good lawyers, but what about the other journalists who don't? That is very dangerous.
No, Paula, it's really interesting. I'm sorry that we have such a little time. It is definitely absurd how the judiciary system has reacted, your fines and what you're going through. Hopefully everything is going to come good at the end for the Intercept and for all the colleagues that are here present today. So we have come to the moment to start with the questions. I would like to invite again to the room to my colleague Christine. And we're going to start reading some of your questions. We have good questions here, and also our colleagues in YouTube are writing down.
Thank you for the interesting contributions we had so far. Unfortunately, our stream is not working because our connection, maybe since we are talking about internet censorship, I don't know what's happening. But yeah, we are just having questions in Big Blue Button now. And we, as we announced, we welcome and invite everyone to speak out loud and turn on their camera if you want. So we will just go through the questions. And the other ones, like all the participants, can also turn on their camera. James, Toby, Paula, just because I guess a lot of the questions will also be for you. Okay, so Akinsa Khan, would you like to turn on your camera? How exactly does the selection of text take place? You can say your question out loud if you want. If not, we will just answer it. So you asked if it's always through Reporters Without Borders, and do you have to be a journalist? How do you identify the texts that come from the journalists? I guess that's for me and Tobias. So Tobias, would you like to start, or should I start?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the selection actually is taking place through Reporters Without Borders, because we approach the journalists, and we initially we were looking for countries where there is censorship and where there's also like many people that play Minecraft, so it actually works that people can access the library in the specific countries. So we actually cooperate with the journalists like we did in this case. So yes, you have to be a journalist or blogger, and we identify the text so we know that they are from journalists. If the question was answered, do you have any more question? No, okay. Tobias, would you like to add something? Okay.
No, I think an interesting fact would be also how the countries are chosen. So we sat together with Reporters Without Borders and were discussing what countries we should add to the library, and we were taking Google data, and we checked on the countries and regions where Minecraft was most popular. And then we took that world map and overlaying on the World Press Freedom Index, and try to find matching countries where there's a high interest in Minecraft and also severe press censorship, to identify countries that would work the best for this project.
Olha, eu queria aproveitar a fala da Paula Bianchi e fazer uma sugestão para vocês, que até, aliás, eu já há algum tempo que eu tenho tentado por aqui. Como a Paula colocou, o que impede os abusos do judiciário é a identificação do juiz que comete o abuso. Aqui eu tenho uma galeria aqui de juízes aqui com os abusos dos mais terríveis aí, desde convocar cientistas porque participaram de congressos sobre as qualidades medicinais da maconha, e muito sobre a imprensa. A minha proposta seria vocês montarem uma galeria...
Professor, desculpa, Sr. Luiz Nassif. Okay. I would like to tap into this opportunity, into what Paula Bianchi has just said, to make a suggestion. Because preventing the abuse from the judiciary, the best way of doing that is identifying the judges. And we have many cases of judges calling scientists to talk about marijuana congresses that they were part of, and so on and so forth.
Nós temos um movimento aqui em defesa do GGN, tem juristas, inclusive juristas internacionais e tudo, mas o ponto central é a base do judiciário. Eu proponho vocês criarem dentro do jogo a galeria dos macartistas, uma galeria dos inquisitoriais, um filtro que seria feito por vocês em cada país, mas identificar o juiz e o abuso cometido. É isso aí.
So my suggestion to you is, because we've been supported by legal experts, international legal experts, but the base is the judiciary. branch. So my suggestion would be to have a gallery of McCarthyism where we could show who these judges are and identifying them. That's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you for the suggestion, and there are even some fruitful ideas here coming up. Okay, let's have a look. I think there are quite a few questions, and if anyone has to leave, because unfortunately we are already at the end of our time, but I don't want to leave these questions open. We will just continue for a little bit and see. But if anyone has to leave, thank you for participating. So there was a question from Jan Wörz. Would you like to read out the question yourself? No? Okay. So you were asking if there was a reaction of repressive political systems and if they are aware and are blocking the access. So are there any consequences of journalists, for the journalists of which we store the publications in the Uncensored Library? Okay, maybe for Jan,
Eu talvez possa falar sobre isso. Eu não tenho experiência e não sei se nós poderíamos ter o acesso bloqueado pelas ações judiciais que a gente sofre, tanto nos jornais de higiene como da Intercept, como a Paula mencionou. Eu não sei se existiria uma possibilidade de os juízes do Brasil também bloquearem essa informação dentro do Minecraft. Eu acredito que não é possível.
I would like to talk about that. I don't have much experience, but I'm not sure if GGN and the Intercept could be blocked inside Minecraft. Maybe the judges could try and block the access to these news pieces. So I don't know about that. What do you think?
Não é possível. O que eles estão fazendo é bloqueando contas de assinaturas, contas de pessoas que contribuem, e contas pessoais também. Eu estou com minhas contas pessoais bloqueadas e contas da minha esposa também. É totalmente ilegal. O Supremo já condenou isso aí. O Supremo tem uma decisão agora do ministro Ricardo Lewandowski. Mas o que eles fazem? Eles seguram o julgamento. Então, o tempo que eles seguram é para tirar o seu fôlego financeiro.
Eu concordo que a principal...
What they are doing with GGN is that they are blocking the subscriptions, they are blocking the donors, they are blocking my personal current account, my wife's current account, and this is totally illegal. And the Supreme Court knows about that. They are trying to prevent that, but what happens is that they hold this trial, and so I'm in a very difficult situation because of that.
Eu concordo que a principal forma deles nos censurarem são a aplicação dessas multas muito vultosas, com valores muito altos, que podem derrubar principalmente jornalistas independentes. E também é interessante, depois dessas questões de censura, eu passei a investigar outros casos de censura no Brasil, muitos envolvem blogs, e cheguei em algumas reportagens do passado que mostram duas coisas. Primeiro, o corporativismo dos juízes, eles são mais dispostos a aceitarem ações de censura feitas por outros juízes, que é o caso que passou a Intercept nessas duas situações, né? São juízes que se sentiram pessoalmente atacados, e essas ações, segundo o levantamento que eu vi de uma reportagem da Folha de 2008, elas tendem a ser 30% mais altas do que seriam ações regulares se não fossem contra uma ação de dano moral, né? Nesse sentido, se não fosse contra a imprensa, sendo contra um juiz, ela tem um valor 30% mais alto. Então, eles tentam nos atacar cortando financiamento mesmo, cortando o dinheiro.
So I agree. These fines are the most efficient way to block us. They are so high that sometimes we have to close. They are able to shut up the independent journalism this way. So I have made a survey, and I was able to find out that this corporate spirit is very present in the judiciary. When judges, they are attacked by they have new species against them in the media, the other judges are more prone to accept the censorship that they establish. So in the survey that I was able to do, 30% of the lawsuits against journalisms are they have successful cases in 30% of the lawsuits against journalism because of that, because they protect one another.
Na verdade, eles têm valores 30% mais altos do que as ações que não envolvendo a imprensa. São 30% mais caras do que seria uma ação regular de dano moral.
In reality, the fines are 30% higher than the regular lawsuits.
Maybe I can. Oh, sorry.
Só uma coisa bem rápida. Nós lançamos um documentário sobre os abusos da justiça brasileira no caso Lava Jato. E desde ontem esse documentário está com legendas em inglês, pois a Patrícia poderia depois passar o link aí, se eventualmente interessar a vocês, e mostra o extraordinário abuso que é o poder judiciário hoje em dia no Brasil.
Yesterday, we were able to launch a documentary movie about the car wash operation and its abuses. So it's now subtitled in English, and if you wish, we can access this documentary movie, and we can provide the link to that.
That would be great. Yes, maybe you can post it in the chat as well. Maybe to quickly circle back to the question if the library could be censored or if there are any threats to censor Minecraft. So how it works is that Minecraft is actually a decentralized game. So each server and each game server is a separate URL. So a government would not try to censor Minecraft as a total, but try to censor the Minecraft server as a single URL. That's why we created a download map of the library and a download link that can be shared. And this link is protected by blockchain technology. So a government cannot destroy the download link or alterate it. And people can share this link and download the library. So each download of the library can then be uploaded in the game again by each player who has downloaded the library. And so far, the library has been downloaded 200,000 times, and each one of these downloads can be uploaded again to host a new library and invite new people. We have experienced this already in the early days of the library when where the run towards the library was too high and we didn't have enough server capacity to let everyone in. Then around the world there was new libraries propping up to expand the capacity of the library. So even if someone would try to censor the library and block the URL, which there has been no attempts so far, there is so many libraries out there that even for Reporters Without Borders themselves and us or Blockwork, it's possible to stop this project or censor it.
Thanks for the clarification, Tobias. I think the question was answered now. So there are some more questions, and now I think we fixed the problem that you can now speak yourself. Felix Margin, if you would like to say your question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all very much for being here today. I partly answered already. It's only whether or not there have been any attempts to identify the use of the, so anyone who did any way to their identities in real life, or have there any attempts? And the other question is more about the usability of the library, because the way you showed it to us, it seemed to me at least that you go to, I don't know, maybe Brazil, and then you have all the articles of Brazil that are censored, but you have no way of finding a specific article. You have to know what is there, and you have to know where it is to actually access. Is there any kind of a catalog? I'm a librarian myself, so a library without a catalog is a strange thing to me.
So there is different kinds of books in the library. For example, we have the Dome, which with 180 flags and countries, and there is one book for each country that highlights the censorship situation in this country. And there's a book at the bottom of the Press Freedom Index with a list of each country, and you can click on the country, and then you're automatically being teleported to that book. So there's sort of a catalog by country. And then, yes, when we're going into the countries, then there is no real catalog system, since we're usually focusing on one journalist or one news outlet, and we don't. The library does not have as many books as a real library. So when you go to a real library, you are facing thousands and thousands of books, and of course you would need a catalog system, and also you would go to a library to search for certain articles. With the Uncensored Library, we often have the situation that people don't know about press censorship at all, or come to the library to get informed about the topic in general, and then also get an overall view or insight of the press censorship situation in that country. So we chose, together with Reporters Without Borders, articles that highlight the press censorship situation in this country, and also highlight the overall situation in this country. So the articles that are provided are also giving a bit of an overview. And yes, the Uncensored Library is not aiming to end censorship in total, or solve the problem in total by publishing thousands and thousands of articles every day, as a huge internet, a huge news website could do, but also has the task of educating young people about the issue of press censorship in general. So on the one part, yes, it's a library that aims to provide information, but of course the game can only do this to a limited amount. But on the other hand, and this is in my opinion also very important, educating young people all over the world about the importance of press freedom and the dangers of press censorship. And this includes also countries who don't suffer under press censorship currently, but need to know that it is important to fight for press censorship on a daily basis. So, for example, there was a boy from Canada on the server who were asking, so why is this important for me? I don't have press censorship in my country. Why should any of this be of relevance to me? And then someone from Hong Kong explained to him how it feels like if your freedom is about to be taken away, and that you have to actively fight for it to maintain it. And a lot of Americans were wondering on the server, so why is our country not doing so good when it in the press freedom ranking? And maybe that has to do with the current political system that is in place, and maybe that this should be something that we would want to watch out. The next election is coming up. So there is, on the one hand, the library providing information, but on the other hand, I feel like the educational purpose of the project is also very important.
Thank you very much. I understand that perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. There's one last question. I think we will look into that and then we can finish off. So Klaus Kroy, I think, no, okay, I will read it out. How is censored content to be displayed chosen? I think we already answered that question. And the second part is, will Minecraft not get into trouble once it releases censored material that is very powerful to people and organizations? See the example of WikiLeaks. I think this is also for you, Tobias.
Yes, I mean, this is a bit of a sensitive issue, and we were thinking about this up front because I think, and we also sat together with James and we're discussing whether or not to ask Minecraft for permission, and we agreed then in after talking to Reporters Without Borders as well, that there is a chance that Minecraft would say no, or that Minecraft would actually like the idea, but they probably would say no because there might be some legal issues. So we said, okay, we just do it and hope for the best. And it turned out that Minecraft were taking care that whenever there was a news article that says, okay, there's a collaboration between Minecraft and Reporters Without Borders, they were contacting that news outlet and asked to have that corrected, because it is not an official collaboration. But Minecraft also posted the project on their official website. So there was some support, but no official support. And Minecraft, I don't know if they could directly be held responsible for the content, since the server is owned by Reporters Without Borders, and the content on the server is also in the responsibility of Reporters Without Borders. And this also, again, is maybe a legal part of how Minecraft works, that everybody can own a server and own the content on the server, and Minecraft could be considered as a browser where you type in a link and then access that separated server. So we also took care that the server where the library is hosted is in the EU and not in a country where a country could, for example, access that server. So I'm not a legal expert. I cannot say to what extent this could be problematic for Minecraft. But so far, we did not have any issues regarding this.
I think just to add to that, we were very nervous actually about doing this project at all, because Microsoft are one of our biggest clients. We do a lot of projects for them. And technically, this is against their commercial guidelines. They tend not to allow projects which have any kind of political purpose on the platform. But I think when they saw the project and the success of it, firstly, it would be very difficult for them to then censor it themselves. You know, that would be a horrendous image for Microsoft, which is a very kind of socially conscious corporation. And yeah, I think sort of maybe secretly, I think as Toby mentioned, the project was featured on their blog. We had some messages of support from people who work on the Minecraft team. So although they perhaps couldn't officially support the project, I think they were secretly very happy about all the press that their video game was getting, and for what is obviously a really good cause.
Okay, thank you all very much. I think we are well over the time now, and there are also no questions left as far as I can see. If not, please write now. No, okay. We will close the event now. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I cannot emphasize enough how important projects like this are for Reporters Without Borders. Like Tobias mentioned, it's really hard to engage young people with topics such as press freedom, and this project is definitely like one of a kind and really, really helpful for us as Reporters Without Borders also to put young people in connection with the topic. And also thank you a lot, Patricia, Luis, and Paula, for joining us today. I'm really happy that you actually took the risk, I mean, to join the project, and that you were so open to a project like this. And it's really, really nice that you also came today. And James.
Thank you so much.
And also to Jenny and Luisa in the background from RSF, who helped us setting up this event.
Yes, thank you to everybody, and let's visit this weekend the Uncensored Library, the new rooms, and what is already been there for a year. Then have a great evening or day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.